Hello and welcome again to Cooking with Miss Rice, where today we are going to make pizza dough. Now, a lot of people feel like what makes a pizza is the toppings, but I'm going to say a good pizza dough is really what's going to keep it delicious. So, give me just a moment to make sure that we are in proper focus here so you all can see. And we'll begin. First thing we're going to put in to our mixer is we are going to put in a total of 3.5 to 4 cups of flour. Now while I'm measuring this, I want to explain why I say between. A lot of recipes say this and a lot of people don't get it because they're going, hey, wait a minute, shouldn't it be either 3 or 4? Well, part of the problem is that a lot of flour does not get properly sifted, it compacts, and there's always a chance that the flour itself may be on the moist side due to humidity, such as where I live, where I don't think there's a single day where it's not humid. So because of this, a lot of recipes, when it comes to making bread doughs or any kind of dough at all, will often say between 3 to 4 or 3.5 to 4, something like that. Now, at the moment I'm doing half-cup measures. I unfortunately could not find my 1-cup measure today. Always sad when that happens. I'm currently at 2 cups of flour, and I'm going to stop at 3.5. My usual advice is it is better to stop a little less flour and then add more than try to add more water, because then you just end up with a mess. So there's 2.5. We have 3. And 1 more half cup. Next, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. Why sugar, you ask? Well, that's because today our recipe is going to call for some yeast. Now, I know some people are going, wait a minute, Miss Rice, you haven't proofed the yeast. And then I have other people going to say, what in the world is proofing the yeast? Well, proofing the yeast basically means we put the yeast into water and sugar and allow the yeast to come alive and begin making its gas, which makes the bread so light and fluffy. In this case, we don't need to do that. We aren't looking for a super fluffy pizza dough, so just putting it in as is fine. We are now going to put in 2 teaspoons salt, 1, 2, more of a savory pizza dough. And then I will add in my 1 packet of yeast. Now, in my particular case, my yeast packet actually comes attached to several others, so I have to cut it. So you'll excuse me just a moment while I do that. There we go. I never like opening yeast until the last possible second. I want to make sure it's as good and fresh as possible. So there's the yeast. Now, here's the interesting thing. Did you know that yeast is alive? It is like a mummy or a zombie rising from the dead. A little bit of water, a little oil, and it shall live. But first, before we do that, we're going to mix up the dry ingredients, and before I add in the oil and water. The oil and water will then allow first of all, the dough to form, and then it'll allow the yeast to kind of come to life, as I just mentioned. Once again, speaking on the loud side, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of oil and another tablespoon of oil. I'll pop these into the sink to get washed, and then I'll add the water. Sorry for the weird background noise. I like to add warm water, as it does help the yeast wake it up a little easier. Does not take long, as you can see, for it to come back, and we need to add 1.5 cups of water. Now we can see there's a lot of dry in there. I'm trying to kind of hit it at the bottom so it starts sticking. Now, if I decide this gets too wet, which I think it looks a little too wet for me, I'm afraid. You can just sprinkle in a little bit of flour at a time. Let it mix and see if it comes to the shape you want. Sprinkle a little more in. Ideally, you want it to where it's still just making a nice ball, but it's not really sticking to the sides. There we go. That looks about right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and finish this off by hand real quick. It really is not that hard, so we just have to be careful because my mixer is one of those lovely bend back, fall down ones that can pinch your fingers if you're not careful. Now, I do want to let folks know this is not a gluten-free recipe. If you are to do this with a gluten-free recipe, you can substitute it, but you'll need to make sure your flour either has protein added to it, like it's a nut flour or soy base, or you'll want to add 1 egg to it. But when you do that, you may need to cut back on the liquid. So do be aware of that. Okay. I'm just going to kind of mix it up. It feels nice. It feels like slightly overly sticky Play-Doh right now. Okay, so all I'm going to do now, it's not a very big ball, as you can tell. I'll just take a paper towel, wet it slightly. It doesn't need a lot. And then I'm going to put this in a warm place to do it and dry. Now, actually, I say it's a warm place, but what I will be really doing is put it in the fridge, because I'm actually not going to use this until tomorrow. If you put this in the refrigerator, you can actually leave it for up to 24 hours and still have it come out quite nice for whatever pizza you're making. Which means when you have those 15 minutes after dinner, you can prepare for dinner the next day. Always awesome. But Miss Rice, we want to see you make pizza today, I hear you say. Don't ask me how I hear you say it. It's through the internet, and I'm a teacher. We have magic powers like that. Well, I have dough already made. Oh, and look, it has doubled in size. Now this dough, all I did with it, let me adjust the camera slightly. All I did with this dough is I put it in, left it in this bowl, put it in my oven. Yes, I put a plastic bowl in the oven, but listen. And I turned on the light. That's it. The light from your oven is enough to generate the heat you need to do this. Now, if you feel nervous about doing it in the oven, but you feel less nervous about doing it in the microwave, if you have a way to leave the light on in your microwave, that'll work as well. Really, any place where you can put it underneath the light, covered so that way it doesn't get too dry, will be perfectly fine. Now, I don't want this video to get too long, so prepare for part 2, where we actually make the pizza. Bon appetit!